Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Jaya Jaya Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Jaya Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadari. Jaya Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadari. Jaya Jasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jaivam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Asatara Satasisi Mat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Mama Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshulanmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayavrupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapatandikam Panchakopa Turubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So since I've always heard that some of the devotees, they listen, they're doing different things in their rooms. So today I'm bringing Srila Prabhupada's slippers here. So all of you who are actually in the temple room, you'll get Srila Prabhupada's slippers on your head. Those who are sitting in the room doing something else, they won't get that privilege today. So, yes, you can hear. You can hear Prabhupada's slippers. I didn't bring them. My wife's bringing them. These pair of slippers, Prabhupada wore them in 1975, and they're airline slippers. These are Japan Airline slippers. Back in those days, even in economy class, you would get slippers and earplugs and eye thingies so you could rest. So he wore these slippers on that flight in and out of Japan, and it was one of the few things that I managed to keep of so many things that he gave me over my time that I was with him. Most everything I gave away, but somehow or other, at least these slippers are still there. So I was thinking a few things. Of course, there's no verse today. I didn't know what the verse would have been, but I was prepared for a verse to take up some time this morning. But since I was very fortunate today, after we've been here a month, my wife and I were leaving tomorrow. Starting big tour, going to different places. So it's been very nice being with all of you here in Govardhan Eco Village for the last month, preparing for this tour. I was thinking different things to speak about today. One of the things that's, well, of course, today's also Snanayatra, which is a special day. Jagannath, Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, and Baladev, they're the very first deities that I saw. So when I joined, I was 19 years old. At that time, Prabhupada was 75, which is how old I turned today, 75 years old. So when I first saw him at first initiation, he was 75. But when I first joined, it was in Philadelphia. And I went to the temple there every day for a week before I got snatched up by one sannyasi, Kirtanananda Swami, who invited my friend and I to go to New Vrindavan. So in the course of 5 days, we went from going to LaSalle College. I was in my second year, he was in his third year. And we went to the Philadelphia temple every evening, Bhagavad Gita class we would go to in the evening. And after 5 days, we left home, left school, we both had scholarships, left our families, and we took a train to Pittsburgh, PA, which then would bring us to New Vrindavan. And first day in the temple, you shaved your head. That was back 50 years ago, that's what it was. It wasn't a long process, it was a very quick process. You just went into the temple and shaved your head, started chanting 16 rounds. The temple in Pittsburgh used to be what was called a Masonic temple. And not a temple like this, they didn't have any deity, Masonic temple, I don't know what they did, but downstairs was the size of a basketball court, and that was the temple room. And in that temple room were the first deities that I saw, and that was Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, Baladev. And those deities are still there in New Vrindavan. From the floor, they're very big deities carved by my godbrother Narayan many, many years ago. And same thing, we went into the temple room and we saw these deities. Of course, not like here in India. We didn't know anything about deities, nothing about Krishna. And they said, this is Krishna, this is brother Balaram, his sisters. And we just, everything you heard, you just accepted. This is what it was. There was no arguing, no questions, just this was God and this was his brother and sister. So they were the very first deities that I saw, was Lord Jagannath deities. So it's nice that today is first day, Snana Yatra day. I was thinking what to speak about. It was so many things. One of the first things, again, with Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, of course, we don't even say he had physical body transcendental. Even Prabhupada says, you don't call the spiritual master a man. It's actually an offense to designate some mundane aspect. But when I first met Prabhupada, well, not the first time, but next time I met Prabhupada was when I went to get Brahmin initiation, and that was in Los Angeles. So my friend, well, a few of us, we drove across country, just like driving from Calcutta to Mumbai. It's long, it was like 5,000 kilometers. It took 5 days to get there. And every day I would get to go on the morning walk. And after the morning walk, Prabhupada would go in. There was a side door to his room. His room was up on the first floor, so we had to go upstairs. And we were all young, 20 years old, 18 years old, 22 years old. And Prabhupada would take his walk very briskly. It wasn't a casual walk, it was a speed walk. You literally had to keep up with Prabhupada on his morning walk. But then when he came back, and he would walk up the stairs, and he had his cane. Someone asked me last week, what did he do with his cane? Because if you see him walking, you don't see him using his cane really. And I said he used it as a pointer. Whenever he was on his morning walk, if he would point at something, his cane would point. But he was walking up the stairs, and I was on the level floor there in the hallway, and he looked right at me, and he said, I used to run up the stairs. He said, now I can't run up the stairs. He said, the desire hasn't changed. I still want to run up the stairs. But he said, I can't run. So now I do the same thing, same age. I see there's no running anymore. It's walking. Someone told me the other day when Radhanath Maharaj had his birthday, and they said, you're 70 and running. He said, no, 70 is walking. He said, now we're not running, we're walking. And even that is a chore. But Prabhupada always philosophical. He will always give you everything. He could make anything make you think about this body you're in and the material world, everything. There was always something you could learn. Everything he said, you would learn something. And they were quick. And next day he's walking up the stairs, the same stairs. I was reading Krishna book to him every afternoon in his garden. I did it for 5 days while we were there in Los Angeles. I became the Krishna book reader. That was the first time I saw Prabhupada read his books every day. If he wasn't reading them, he had someone read them to him. When I became his servant, I saw that he read his books. Every day he was reading his books. It was one of the things that bewildered me when I was first with him. But he saw me in the garden reading Krishna book to him every afternoon. And he didn't look at you and say, okay, now you can read. He'd be chanting, talking, and then he'd just look at you. That was all he had to do, was look, and you knew what you were supposed to do. Read. I'd start reading. So after a few days walking up those same stairs, he looked at me, he smiled. He said, Sutta Goswami, because I was reading Krishna book. That's how he identified. I was a Krishna book reader. I was reciting Bhagavatam. He said, Sutta Goswami, and he just kept walking up the stairs. See? This is what we want to do. I was just reading that by Srila Prabhupada this morning. Everything is association. When people see you, how do they want to identify you? Huh? What you do, who you are, chanting japa, giving class, preaching, leading kirtans. See, he was a devotee all the time. So Prabhupada, in that way, he always encouraged us. I was thinking today it would be very light and nice. You know, I was very fortunate with Prabhupada. And as I say, the best time, someone just gave me a questionnaire, 20 questions it was, so many interesting questions. But for me, the best time with Prabhupada was in the evening. All day, it was busy. Prabhupada's chanting, Prabhupada's preaching, he's giving darshan, class every morning. But the evening time, and when I was with Prabhupada, he ate every evening. Every evening he would call me into the room, 8 o'clock or so, and say, tonight, make puris and potato eggplant sabji. Another time he would say, make parathas. He asked me, do you know how to make parathas? I said, no, I'll show you. He came in the room, just gave directions, just tell you, do this, do this, do this, do this. And he would show me and I made them. So then after prasadam, he's eating 9 o'clock at night. And imagine, he's getting up at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning and translating every day. All these books we have, one in a month, sometimes 1 in 2 months. Volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. But those times in the evening also was massage. But that meant he's in his bedroom. He's not sitting on a straw mat on the floor in his gamsha. I'm in my gamsha. And oil all over the body. What kind of oil? Mustard oil. Oil for the outside, Prabhupada said. Ghee for the inside of the body. This evening we're going to have a little talk at the Culinary Institute. Sattvic. Prabhupada said sattvic cooking. Anyway, so now it's almost 10 o'clock at night. Prabhupada would leave his sitting room, go into the bedroom, and he would sit in bed, sometimes lie down on his back. And then I would just massage, no oil, massage his legs and his lotus feet. You know, when you're a devotee, you can never get enough mercy. Always want more. And people think you got so much. But even when you get so much, you think you want more. I would massage Prabhupada's feet at night. So I would move around the bed, this side, that side, the foot of the bed. And very often he would just close his eyes. He'd lie there and squeezing, and it's late. You've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning or earlier. Now it's 10 o'clock at night, and Prabhupada's eyes are closed. And if he closed his eyes and I was by his feet, I put my head on his feet. Because you can never get enough mercy. Can never get enough mercy from the pure devotee. I'm sure he knew. He could feel me massaging If I saw him massaging, I'm getting tired, massaging his legs. And sometimes I'd squeeze harder. Tell the devotees when they massage, squeeze, squeeze. Prabhupada said, like a chapati dough. First day I massaged him. I had no idea how to massage, never touched anyone. I had to massage Prabhupada. And I watched Sudama one day give a massage. I watched. And the next day I had to do it. And I'm massaging him. And he grabbed my leg and started squeezing it. He said, like this. He said, like this, he said, was massaging my thigh. I'm saying I think I'm the only person Prabhupada got massage from Prabhupada for a few seconds. So at nighttime, I massage harder. So I'm thinking he's resting. And you're not allowed to leave. You can never leave your service with your spiritual master till he gives you permission. So I'd massage harder. And that he liked. The harder you did, the more he liked. And eventually he'd say, okay, go take rest. That was the only time. Go take rest, he would say, and you'd go take rest. But those evening times were the most wonderful time of the day. No one else is in Prabhupada's room. Class, temple room, so many devotees. In his room in the morning after breakfast, so many devotees he's speaking to. Little management meetings like you have. He'd be inspiring all the managers in the temple. In the afternoon, darshan, people in the room. Massage before lunch. Secretary would come in and read the letters to him. Prabhupada would dictate his responses. Sanskrit editor would come into the room during massage, ask questions. Prabhupada would give him answers. But nighttime, no one ever went into Prabhupada's bedroom at nighttime, only his servant. So that was, for me, that was the best time of the day because you're alone, just Prabhupada and you. And if he speaks, he's speaking to you. 2 years, more than 2 years I was with him. If I was alone with him, if he would speak, I would always think, why is he talking to me? Who am I? He's doing so many things, so many instructions, talking to so many people. There's no one else in the room and he was talking. So I'd be in ecstasy just thinking, he cares. I could never understand it. And he would talk about his childhood. That was the most blissful time. He would talk about his childhood many times because of what he ate in the evening, because his mother would cook those things. Prabhupada often said, everything I've given you, I was doing as a child. And that didn't just mean chanting, worshiping. It also meant his eating habits. He knew his eating. To one evening, in the lunchtime, same every day. We'll discuss this in the Culinary Institute. Very simple, what he showed me. Rice, chapatis, dal, bitter melon, a few little subjis, tiny amount of spice. Lunch. He didn't tell me at lunch, make this for lunch, make that. I knew what I had to do. But in the evening time, he would ring the bell. One of the very first times, I was with him just for 2 weeks, and we're in San Francisco, and we're staying at one cottage, one hippie's house. They cleaned it for 3 days. They had to clean the place before Prabhupada could stay there. The smell of marijuana in it. So they clean. So that evening, he called me in the room and he said, make puris and chips. So I said, yes, Prabhupada. I was new. I was his new servant. So, of course, I'm an American. I was an American boy. So I made puri dough, knew how to make puri dough, and made the puris. And then I got the potatoes, and I'm slicing them really thin to make potato chips. And then I brought it to him, deep fried in ghee. Everything, puris, deep fried in ghee. The chips, deep fried in ghee. And I brought it in and put it down. He looked at me, he said, "What are these?" I said, "They're chips, Prabhupada." He said, "These aren't chips." He meant British chips, which we called fries, French fries. We called them French fries. So he wanted me to make British chips, but I made crisps. You would call crisps. I made crisps for him. So then he just shook his head. That was my first failure after 3 days with him. That was my first big failure. So then I came back with another puri, and he said, "Oh, these are good." So he liked them. But he never asked for chips from me again. 2.5 years, never said, "Make me chips again." Many other things he asked. And that was the one night, it was in Juhu, he called me into the room. And it's almost 9 o'clock at night. And he said, "Tonight make muri." I said, "Yes, Prabhupada." He said, "Last night I had puris and sabji." He said, "And it made it difficult for me to get up in the morning and do my translation work." He said it made it difficult. He adjusted what he ate because it made it difficult for him to get up at midnight after sleeping for 2 hours. So he said, "Make muri." That just lasted one night, then it was back to puris and sabjis. But he was conscious of that, what he eating late at night, but he was. So I made him the puffed rice. And so many of these stories you hear about Prabhupada's childhood came from that one evening. Because when I went in and started giving him massage, he just started talking about his childhood. And he started out with my mother. Prabhupada had great affection for his mother and father, and of course they had loved him so much. And he said, "My mother was first-class cook." He said she would puff the rice. She would puff the rice. I saw a conversation, Prabhupada said it another time. Disciples couldn't understand how you puff rice. And Prabhupada explained it, and he told me she had a nice thick wok, put the sand in the wok, you make it very, very hot. Then there's a certain rice, puffing rice that you use, and you put it in the sand, and of course it puffs, and you just strain it out. I didn't ask questions when Prabhupada, his descriptions were so vivid. You could see when he spoke, he could bring you right into the place. That was his ability. He could take you. He would go there, and he could bring you with him. So he was describing how to do it. I saw later others, how do you mean? It's in sand, how do you eat it? He said, you just put it in the strainer, you strain out the sand, and they couldn't understand. Anyway, I could cook a little bit. So he said, she was first-class cook. And he said, my sister, his younger sister, we call Pishima, she was also first-class cook. Then he smiled. He said, I'm also first-class cook. He said, but I learned just by watching. He said, no one had to teach me. He said, just by watching. He said, I learned. So sometimes Prabhupada would brag a little. And then he said, the one night, I told my mother I want puris. Just like he was telling me 70 years later, puris. And she said, no. She said, it's too late. I'm massaging the whole time. I'm always doing something. He didn't speak to me. I'd just be sitting in the room and he'd give me some class or something. No, I was always massaging him when he would speak to me. So I'm squeezing his legs. And his mother said, no, I'll make you muri, puffed rice. Prabhupada, even as a child, you could understand no was not something you could say to him. There was no, if he wanted something, that you couldn't refuse. So again, he said, I want puris. And he said, my mother said, no, it's late. It's too late. I'll make you puffed rice. So then the third time, I always say, so many things come in threes. For the third time, he said, I want puris. He said, then my father said, if he wants puris, give him puris. And then he said, perhaps my father knew. But that was all he said. Perhaps his father knew. So Prabhupada gave a little hint that he was this pure devotee from the spiritual world, not ordinary person. Even his father knew. Because he said his father would do anything he wanted. Then he said, when I was young, he said, I had one toy, a cow. He said, and somehow he described it, this cow, there was a little tube and then like a little thing you'd squeeze and the cow would jump, like our cows. Sometimes they jump, you call them, they jump. He said this cow would jump. Then he told the story about the guns. Whole time I'm just massaging, and he just went back. He went back 70 years to his childhood. And then he said, my father, always thought my father would always take him out on walks in the evening. They would go to the shops. And of course, that's when he saw one little toy stand, and he saw the gun, metal gun. And he told his father, I want a gun. His father bought him a gun. And Prabhupada said, I had the gun in my hand. He said, and I looked at my other hand. I wanted a gun for that hand. And I told my father, I need another gun. His father said, no. He said, one is enough. Prabhupada said, I want another gun. I want a gun for each hand. His father said, no. Prabhupada's telling me, his father said, no. He said, I laid down on the ground. He said, had a tantrum, banging my hands on the ground, banging my head on the ground. He said, you see this scar? He said, it's from that time. That was our Prabhupada. He had cut his forehead because he had to have another gun. I said, 70 years later, 60 years later, Prabhupada went to America. He had two guns, one for each hand. He had the holy name and the instructions of his spiritual master. That's what he always said, those two things. He came to America. He had complete faith in the holy name and complete faith in the order given to him by his spiritual master. Again and again, same order. 1922, 1933, 1936, same order, again and again. So Prabhupada always had his two guns with him. And then he said one day, he said, we were walking, and you have to try to, when Prabhupada's telling you, you have to try to imagine him being this big. It wasn't easy to see your guru being 5 years old, 6 years old like that. But he would talk like that. And he said one day we were out with my father. He said, and we would pass this one shoe store. Now you have to understand, Calcutta, back in 1900, 1905, it was a very beautiful, it was the British crown jewel city. Huh? So many ponds, so many parks were there, beautiful streets, beautiful buildings. He said we went by a store, and it was a shoe store. He said, and it was, window was there. He said, inside the window there was a pair of shoes from England. And I told my father, I want those shoes. His father bought him the shoes, he said. He said they were leather shoes. He kept saying, from England. He said, I would wear those shoes to school every day. Now I'm rubbing, squeezing his leg, and I'm trying to imagine Prabhupada going to school, the whole thing. He said, I was very happy. He liked those shoes very much, he said. So then finally I asked the question, because I'm trying to see Prabhupada walking to school in these English leather shoes. And I said, Prabhupada, when you were walking to school, were you looking at your shoes? He started laughing and laughing. Yes, he said, I would watch my feet as I was walking. I would watch my shoes. And he's slapping his leg and laughing and laughing. I saw him laugh like that 4 times. No one could laugh like Srila Prabhupada. I see Radhanath Maharaj, he can laugh very close like that. When Prabhupada broke into a laugh, it had so many different levels. There was just laughing, and then there was the shaking, and then there were the tears, and then there's whole body shaking, and finally slapping his knee. That was the height of laughter, when he would slap his knee. So I got to see Prabhupada, and I made him laugh like that. I didn't make him laugh, but he laughed like that a few times with things that I said. So these shoes were also very special. Then, of course, he described his first Rath Yatra festival. It was 1973. It was the only Rath Yatra parade I was with Srila Prabhupada. It was 1973. And besides San Francisco, it's one of the most famous Rath Yatra festivals because it's on video. And it was interesting. Just before Prabhupada, he had been in Calcutta. He was in Mayapur, he was sick. Then he went into Calcutta. And anyway, that's a long story. He wasn't feeling well, but he got invited to go to London for Rath Yatra festival. Shama Sundar sent him a letter. 3 carts would be there, going from, I think, Regent's Park to Trafalgar Square, most famous road in the world at that time, Trafalgar Square in London. Prabhupada was also invited to go to Perth, Australia to rest because he had been ill. He was very ill in Calcutta. His sister would cook for him, and we would cook for him. You know, there was ISKCON Prasadam, and then there was Pishima's Prasadam. So when Prabhupada was in Calcutta, she would come to the temple every morning, and she would bring a flask of mustard oil. Only person in all of ISKCON had mustard oil was Prabhupada's servant, and that was to give him massage. We didn't cook with it. So she would bring a bottle of mustard oil. She'd bring 2 bottles. Prabhupada had his gun, she had hers. She'd have mustard oil and Ganga Jal. And as soon as she would see Prabhupada's disciples, she'd purify us with Ganga Jal. She'd always put Ganga Jal on our head. So we were cooking for Prabhupada, rice, dal, chapatis, bitter melon, same simple, little chants, little bit, tablespoon of ghee with a little bit of spicing, and she would cook in mustard oil. Every day I would bring in 2 plates to Prabhupada. I would bring in our plate that he showed us what to make, And then I would bring in her plate. So I did it one day. I did it the next day. This is in Calcutta. Same place. What's it called? What's the address? Albert Road. Same room, Prabhupada's room there on Albert Road. So the third day, I opened those doors and I'm coming in with Pishima's plate. And Prabhupada said, don't bring that in here. She's trying to kill me because of the mustard oil. He said, you eat it. He said to me, it was the one instruction I didn't follow. I said, Prabhupada, I can't eat that. He said, well, distribute to the devotees. He said, she's poisoning me. He liked it, but wasn't digesting it. We told her, but she disagreed. She said, he can digest nails if he wants. She saw Prabhupada was pure devotee from the spiritual world. He could eat anything. And then one evening she made kachoris, which was his favorite. But she made coconut kachoris. And that was fried in mustard oil. Anyway, that evening Prabhupada got very pain. He had such pain in his stomach. I was outside of his room where I would sit and I could hear him. He was moaning. So I went in and was giving him massaging his stomach. And again, he said, my sister, he said, she's trying to kill me. But he liked it. Anyway, he got those 2 letters from Perth and from London, from Shima Sundar. One saying, come to London for Rath Yatra. The other one saying, come to Perth, rest, because you've been ill. So Prabhupada called in all the men in Calcutta. That meant Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Jayapataka Maharaj, and Bhavananda, and so many, Gargamuni Maharaj, all. And he told them, he read the 2 letters, he had them read to him, and he said, what should I do? Should I go to Calcutta? Should I go to London for Rath Yatra festival? Or should I go to Perth, Australia and rest? He said, you discuss. He said, after lunch I'll ask you. So then I'm giving him massage. And he said, so Srutakirti, he said, what is your opinion? Should I go to London or should I go to Perth? I'm massaging him. I'm behind him. And I just kind of laughed. I said, Prabhupada, you're going to go to London because you can preach to thousands of people. He just said, you have good common sense. So then he had his lunch and he took a short nap. Then he said, call them. So I called them. He said, so you've discussed? It was Tamal Krishna. He was the head. He was always the head, the number one. He was the spokesperson. You've discussed? Yes, Prabhupada, we've discussed. He said, so what have you concluded? He said, you should go to Perth, Australia to rest. Prabhupada just looked at me, shook his head. He said, we're going to London. That was it. There's no question of rest, no question of resting. We were in Boston last year for the 60th. I was staying in this house, half hour from the city. Beautiful, beautiful, palatial house. 5 acres of land, had its own little pond, with a little rowboat there, everything. So the one day, Radhanath Maharaj came over so we could have lunch together. So he was staying in the city near the temple. So I said to him, Maharaj, I said, you stay out here for a few days. They said, so many nice rooms, everything, so many nice rooms. He said, I came here to do service. He said, not sit out here and rest. He said, I came to do service. So he understood Prabhupada's style, preaching, There was no question of rest. Prabhupada just shook his head, tried to understand what he wanted. So then he went to London, and he hadn't been well. And of course they showed him Subhadra's cart, had Prabhupada's Vyasa-san. You could sit on Subhadra's cart. And Prabhupada just shook it off, said no. And he didn't lead the kirtan, but he led the kirtan. Hansaduta started banging on the drum, chanting. And Prabhupada was with the devotees. You can see the video, a very wonderful video. So many devotees. And like devotees, this is in London, England. You've got to understand England. So the police are there, the bobbies, they call bobbies, the policemen were there. So the devotees, and Prabhupada's making everyone dance because he's chanting and dancing and walking along and encouraging everyone, making sure it's going to be the best Rath Yatra ever. So he's walking along and he's dancing and dancing. And of course, I imagine when they got permission to have this festival, parade, the management there, the politicians and the government, they're thinking it's going to be a very nice marching parade. Like you see, like a military style, everyone unison, lines, all dancing very nicely. And of course the devotees, no such thing. Everyone's all over the place, dancing, going this way. And Prabhupada's dancing, started dancing. So all of a sudden, and I was always trying to keep the devotees away from Prabhupada so that they didn't bump into him as he's moving along. So one of the policemen, I guess, considered that I was like a important person. So he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, you have to tell your leader to, calm down because everyone's all over the place. He said, you have to, you just tell him to go sit in his chair and tell everything to calm down. I said, oh, okay. So Prabhupada was hands in the air, and he's dancing and chanting and dancing and encouraging everyone to dance. And I tapped him on the shoulder from behind him. And he spun around and he looked at me, and as he was going around, I said, Prabhupada, the police is saying you need to sit down and settle down. And he didn't stop. He just did a 360. He just danced around as I was trying to talk to him and just kept dancing. So then the policeman came up to me again, and I said, if you want, I said, you tell him. I said, he's not going to listen to me. But even the policeman knew he couldn't do anything at that point. He couldn't do anything. And then, of course, Prabhupada arrived there, Trafalgar Square. I'll tell one little funny story. It's probably not the most appropriate story. But Prabhupada, the parade went on for 3 hours. So this was 1973. So at this time, Prabhupada's like 77. So one thing when you're older is you pass urine more frequently. When you need to do it, you just do it. So we're walking and dancing, and Prabhupada saw this tiny little side street, like a little alleyway. So he decided to make a little detour and go into the alleyway. All the devotees started following him into the alley. And we're going, no, stay in the parade, stay in the parade. Prabhupada was going off to the side for a moment. But then we got there. And then he saw the next day, it was in all the newspapers. Newspapers in England, they have their little folding newspapers. I never understood England, how important the newspapers were. In the morning, everyone gets these newspapers. And there's like a half a dozen major ones, different pictures on the front. In this picture, it showed the Rath Yatra cart. And it showed it against Nelson. Is that it? I think Nelson, a big famous politician, soldier. in the Rath Yatra cart. He said, even bigger than that. Prabhupada was so happy. But he was determined to be there in England. England took everything from India, materially. They took so much. And now Prabhupada was right in their faces with the devotees. This was a big, big victory. There was no question Prabhupada wasn't going to be at that Rath Yatra. There was no question. He wanted to be there. He wanted to show them, as he said, I'm giving you the one thing you didn't take from us, our spiritual culture. He said, that's what I'm bringing here to England. So that was a very wonderful event. So this Rath Yatra, of course, now everywhere. Next week, we're going to be at a Rath Yatra in Birmingham, England, I think, ourselves for one day. Anyway, we have a little bit of time left. I appreciate all of you being here. I think my wife brought Prabhupada's slippers. All of you that managed to come into the temple room, you all got Prabhupada's slippers on your head. Does anyone have any questions? Comments? Yes, Gaura Prabhu.
Elaborate on the 4 stages of laughter. The 4 stages of laughter of Prabhupada. Speak a little bit more on that. The 4 situations.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll describe it. Yeah, one story, since it's significant to me at this age, turning 75. That also happened at Bhaktivedanta Manor. Just like you and the other devotee gave me a little massage, knocked over the bottle of oil. So one day massage, I've been with them a year. I knocked over the bottle of mustard oil. You got to understand a little bit about Prabhupada. What you're supposed to do, when you massaged him, you didn't leave the spot until he told you you could, by a shake of the head. That meant next spot. You stayed there, could be there for 40 minutes if he's doing something else. You're thinking he's not paying attention. You don't ever think like that. Until he went like this, you don't move. That's another story. But anyway, the other thing was, you put a little teaspoon of oil in your hand, you put the bottle down, and you put the cap on it. So every time, 10 times you're putting oil, every time you're supposed to put the cap back on. Because that's just how you do things. So of course I didn't. And the one time I went from behind him to beside him to massage his chest, and I knocked the bottle over. And of course, he grabbed it. Even he was faster than his reflexes were very good. He grabbed it, but oil spilled on the floor, like this floor, nice, beautiful wooden floor at the manor. And he held it up, and he screamed, he yelled, "You fool, you'll be intelligent when you're 80. And then he said, "Go get a katuri." So I ran out of the room, and the closet was next door where I cooked his lunch, in a closet, and I got a little cup, a little katuri, and I came back in, and he said, "Now do as I'm doing." And he stuck his hand right in the oil on the floor and started scraping it into the cup. And he doesn't say anything, and Prabhupada's face, you look at his, he could look very serious all the time, and we're scraping it in. Most everything got off, a little shine on the floor, but oil's in the cup. Then he looked at me and said, "Massage me with that oil." That's an insult to say that. He's already made you feel horrible. Now he tells you to massage him with the oil from the floor, from the body of the pure devotee. But he was also very economical. He wasn't going to waste that oil. And he's also going to make me feel even worse. And I'm massaging him, and of course, there are little bits here and there, massaging, and you're picking off a little piece of fuzz or something. And of course, when Prabhupada yelled at you, you just wanted to die. You just want to die. And I'm massaging him, and he doesn't look up. He had a way he could sit there, and he'd have his little golden Tulsi chain he'd put around his ears, so when you massage his chest, it would go around here like that. And he's just sitting there, and I'm massaging. I never said I'm sorry. Not once in 2.5 years did I ever say I'm sorry to Prabhupada. It wasn't in my vocabulary. It would have been easy, say I'm sorry, it'll never happen again, but it never registered in my head. So I'm massaging, and it feels like the whole room feels like, there's this giant dark cloud in the room, because he yelled at me, like, called me a fool. Be intelligent when you're 80. And I'm thinking, what can I say? What can I say? And this went on for an hour. He doesn't say anything, doesn't look at me. I don't know what he's thinking, but I'm not feeling very happy. So finally I get to his feet, the very end of the massage. And I'm massaging his feet, so there's no time left. And I'm massaging, and I said, Prabhupada. And he opened his eyes. I said, thank you. I thought it would take a lot longer to become intelligent. And Prabhupada started laughing and laughing and shaking, and his whole body was shaking, and he's laughing and laughing. He wouldn't stop laughing the whole time, and I'm rubbing his feet, and he's laughing and laughing, and his body's shaking and shaking. And tears would come out of his eyes. And then finally he starts slapping his knee. Always ended slapping the knee, the right knee, or right hand was slapping it, laughing and laughing. And then he looked at me, he said, very good. He said, when we were young boys, some boy did something foolish, we would say, you'll be intelligent when you're 80. He said, and I've used it on you. So today I'm 75. It happened, I was 21 years old when he said that to me. So I only have another 5 more years before I become intelligent. So, I'm hoping maybe I can be here in 5 years, 80 years old. He used that term 80 a few times, 80. But he said it, and that was my thing, was always make him laugh. And he would. He could laugh. No one could laugh like he could laugh. It was from another world, Prabhupada's laughter. One of the things on this questionnaire was, I guess, what I appreciated. Prabhupada, he was the most simple person you could ever be with. And said he was childlike. And I've heard others say it. Even some of the Matajis were with him way back in 67 and 68. He had a childlike behavior, not childish, not foolish, but very simple and innocent, and from the spiritual world. And it wasn't something you would get to see, at least rarely, and never on the Vyasa-sam would you see. You would see the Acharya, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. But in his room, sometimes you could get that little glimpse of what it was to be lover of Krishna. He just loved Krishna so much. And Krishna could make him laugh. That was the first thing I saw when I read Krishna book. 2 days in a row, Prabhupada laughing and laughing and laughing. And we're just telling stories, but he's seeing stories. He's seeing what was going on. So to see that, you want to develop faith, see how a devotee is. That can speak volumes of what it means to be Krishna conscious. You can read so many books, do so much, sir, but when you actually see someone on the transcendental platform acting transcendentally, acting like he's right there with Krishna in the spiritual world, that's the most beautiful thing. And that was there with Prabhupada. Mostly hidden, but sometimes he would go into ecstasy. So those times seeing Prabhupada in ecstasy was the most wonderful thing. And that's what we all want to achieve. This is our business. So many services we have, doing this, but our goal is to go back home, back to Godhead. As Prabhupada said, and I just want to go back to the spiritual world and eat kachori and lagdu with Krishna. So this is what we want. All of this is for, just push on in this life, do our service, chant, follow, and the goal is there, back home, back to Godhead. So this is what Prabhupada has given to us. And no one else, no one but Prabhupada has been able to do that. In his ISKCON society. Just remain loyal to your service. Everything will be there. Prabhupada guarantees. Prabhupada gave a guarantee it would be there. Anything else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for deciding to spend this day with us. We are blessed with your association, and you narrated so many wonderful pastimes of Srila Prabhupada and so many personal pastimes.
Yes.
One question comes to my mind that it is said that we should keep distance from few things, fire, guru, and deities. So how we can maintain, how we not take the association of Mahabharat granted and make aparad in such a personal service, and how you have, we see such a love emanating from your heart for Srila Prabhupada. So can you please guide that not to make offenses and not to be critical when we are in very close proximity to such a senior Vaishnavas?
Yes, that's what it says, right? The two most dangerous services are pujari and personal servant. Familiarity breeds contempt. And I mean, of course I saw it myself. I saw it with others that have been with Prabhupada a long time. How to guard against offending devotees, advanced devotees. And it's often I see sometimes, I have that over the years, being there on social media, seeing things, and people that have they've left the society of devotees, left devotional service, and they'll think it was them that made the decision to leave. But actually the decision is made for you because of offenses. That's how dangerous it is to make offenses. Because you may think, I can't tolerate this is going on in this ISKCON, and in this temple this is going on, and this devotee is doing like this. So then you just decide to pull away. But that pulling away is due to our offenses and seeing so many things being wrong. In Caracas, a young girl was in the temple room at the end of class. Prabhupada said, any questions? Which was unusual. They only did it in a few places, Australia, Mexico City, Caracas. Any questions? And this girl said, I was living in the temple. She said, but all the devotees in the temple, they're in Maya. She says, so I moved outside. And everyone was like, and Prabhupada looked at her, he said, you show me the place where there's no Maya and I'll go there. And all the devotees started laughing, and Prabhupada was saying it in a jovial way. And then he looked at her, he said, you see that the devotees are in Maya because you're in Maya. He said, I see that everyone is serving very sincerely. So So what can we do? We you read the books. I just saw a Prabhupada quote yesterday. Gargamuni Prabhu, he puts these wonderful quotes on about Prabhupada. He finds these things that I've never seen. Prabhupada saying this, Prabhupada saying that. But Prabhupada said, one who leaves preaching to go in a solitary place and chant is doing materialistic activities. You see? Now, association is most important. And finding good association, that you have to do. Everyone, we have respect for everyone. Every devotee, anyone chants Hare Krishna, we have respect for them. But if we're serious, you have to seek out good association so that they can encourage you to carry on with your service. And service, so association and service, most important things. Have good association and then do something. And that's what Prabhupada's saying. To think that, I've passed all that, all these neophytes doing all their service, all that, to think like that, I'm just going to chant Hare Krishna. Danger, right? We can read Upadeshamrita. You get to the end, what's it tell you to do? Go reside in Radhakund. Prabhupada never resided in Radhakund. We have to follow the authorities, follow the Acharya. So that desire can be there. Prabhupada, one point he said, in Mayapur, he said, we're going to get jeeps. It was 1975. He said, we're going to get jeeps. He said, we'll go in them and we'll go everywhere Lord Chaitanya went as he traveled around, did pilgrimage. So he wanted to do that. But he couldn't do that. He had his mission, which he had to do. So we can do those things in our mind, do so many things. But our business, and like I told that story, Prabhupada preaching, and he was upset that his leaders didn't understand, saying, go rest. They didn't understand him at all. There was no question of rest. And they didn't understand their own business, their own duties of preaching, always preaching. Everything we do. Here, this is your business. Whatever going on, it's preaching work. Seeing the guests have a nice time, see the deities, take prasadam. It's all preaching. Whether you're cooking, dressing the deities so beautifully. I was on there for first time today. I did Artik. Radha Vrindavan Bahari, Lord Chaitanya, Madan Mohan temple, seeing them so close. Madan Mohan was such a wonderful gift today. That this is what we do. So everyone's taking such nice care. So we can come in and get enlivened coming to the temple here. So always have to be on guard. And to think everyone has faults. And of course, what's it said? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, person I joined with, he used to read him. I couldn't read him. He was very intelligent, my friend, Prabhupada said, living encyclopedia, he was known as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he said, only because I'm honeycombed with faults do I take to the task of seeing faults in others. So we have to work on that. That has to be our business. Always work on us inside. Outside, try to be benefit to everyone. Then everything will be okay. With Prabhupada, I could always see he was pure devotee and I always knew I was not pure devotee. So I was fortunate. Somehow or other, some people you chastise them, they just repulsed. But somehow or other, it affected me, but I never thought, who is he to tell me to do? It never entered my head. Never thought like that. Like, why is he chastising me? I always knew I was worthy of being chastised. So that's helpful. to consider yourself fallen. A pure devotee considers himself the most fallen. Who are we to think we're a big devotee? I'm doing so much. It's all by mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And within this society, everything is by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, whether it's coming down through the generations. It'll be that way in hundreds of years, still by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. He's the main branch. He said that. So many sub-branches will be there, but it's all holding on to that branch. You know? It's not an independent branch. It's all coming through the source. And if you cut it off, dead. All right. Hare Krishna, thank you all very, very much. And thank you we've had such a wonderful time here. And Krishna willing, we'll be back here again for the winter. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Oh, and now you all get Prabhupada's mercy.